Welcome to Planet Marzipan Podcast,
your fish and Marillion podcast,
where we talk about all things in the planet of Marillion and fish. I'm Mezza, and here's my mate,
Craig Houston.
and welcome to Planet Marzipan Podcast. I'm Mezza, and I'm here with my good friend
Craig.
And we have guests today. We are joined by Gary Foalle, rejoined by Gary Foalle.
You keep forgetting to put the E on his end. Gary Foalle.
Thank you for having me back, guys. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, no, I booked Gary Foalle. Is this Gary Foalle?
Yes,
I've got the wrong person. Sorry. Sorry, Gary. Welcome back, mate. It's good to see you again. And we're rejoined from Holland by Edwin Ammerlaan.
The legend that is.
Yes. Welcome back, Edwin.
Happy to be here.
Fresh from your world tour with the book. It's nice to see you again. So we're here to talk about Suits. Fish's Suits album.
I see.
And Suits. As usual, we'll start with a Wikipedia entry. Suits is the fourth solo album, the third of original material, by former Marillion singer Fish. It's the first album to be released on Fish's own label, the Dick Brothers Record Company, which he set up after being dropped by Polydor. The album continues the cooperation with producer James Cassidy, who'd already produced songs from The Mirror. Cassidy also contributed keyboards and co-wrote 5 out of the 10 songs on the original version of this album. Together with keyboardist Foster Patterson, who had been part of the tour lineup since 1992 and co-wrote 3 tracks. Cassidy takes the role previously held by Mickey Simmons. Further songwriting credits go to guitarist Robin Bolt and bassist David Payton. The album took Fish the longest time to make. Several songs on it had already been premiered live in the summer of 1992. Craig, this album came out in 1994, so how old would that make you?
I was 21 at the time.
Oh, my God.
It was just before I was 22. There you go.
It does go like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. It is. Over half a lifetime ago.
Yeah. Early memories of the album, guys, before we get stuck into sort of the story of it? Any sort of views on it?
I remember liking it from the beginning. I wouldn't say it was a return to form or anything like that, because I hadn't been disappointed with any of the previous albums. So for me, it was a good album. I really enjoyed it, and it was a good counterbalance at the time to Marillion's Brave, whereas we love it as an epic, dark masterpiece that it was. But this, even though its subject matters can be quite dark, was a lighter album, more commercial, more sing-along.
I wasn't that sure at first. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that it is, in my opinion, his most accessible album, maybe even his most commercial album. And in hindsight, that's, understandable, because he was launching his own label, as you just said. It's also his least progressive album. I don't know if you ever can call Fish's music progressive, but this is as far away as you can get from progressive music as he's ever done in the past with all his albums. So it took me some time to get used to.
Yeah. Gary?
It's quite groove driven, isn't it? It's a lot of just funky bass lines and kind of bluesy guitar. It's like Edwin said, it's simple in terms of, time signatures and that side of it. But I think that groove thing's the thing I really enjoy about it.
It was one of his best band lineups.
Well, yeah, we'll come on to that, but I think it's a really strong album. I loved it from the off. I think it helps by having a lot of these songs tried out on the road before recording them. There's 4, 5 or 6 tracks that are really good live tracks and still get played now. I mean, there's odd exceptions as we'll come on to, but it's, I think, and I also have some good memories from the time. It is, don't get too emotional here, Craig, but all around this era where I first met Craig, when we were going up to Haddington, which we have covered on the pod before, but, and things were changing in my life. I got together with a new partner. So it's lots of good memories wrapped up in this music as well as some cracking gigs as well. But I'm sure we'll come on to that.
Yeah, and another thing that stands out when you listen to the remasters and compare the original demos with the final songs, there's a huge difference between those two songs. And somewhere along the line, they've taken some productional and arrangement kind of decisions to make it the album that it finally got to be. But it could easily be a completely different album if you listen to the demos. It could be more guitar oriented or more raw or rougher than it ended up to be. So the huge difference between the original stuff and the final songs, that's a difference between night and day for me.
The most interesting demos disc of the whole remasters, I think, for me, because you've got some songs that are 3 versions of it, and you can really see the progression of the tracks.
But one of the funny things with this album, though, is it's possibly been the album that has been remixed the most, because the original version, don't want to jump too far ahead in one of Edwin's interviews that he'd done with Fish at the time, is that they remixed the album just before it was actually released and mastered. So they had an original version of the album. He wasn't that happy with it. So he mucked around with it in 94 before it was released. And then it's been remixed again for the 98. Was it remixed for 98 or not?
Not remixed. It's not been remixed.
Not been remixed. Was it just remastered? So the stuff's been fiddled around with, shall we say, in various different time periods. And some stuff for Yin and Yang was played around with. The 98 re-release on Roadrunner, and now the newer remaster from, was it like 2017?
It was originally planning to get James Cassidy to remix it for the remasters version, but James Cassidy said he wasn't sort of up to speed with remixing and stuff. So Fish decided to leave it as it was and just remaster it. But
But this version, like I said, Edwin's saying it's fantastic. But we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
We are a little bit. Let's go back.
As we always
back
do.
in the mists of time to 1992, the summer of 92, where Fish was in disagreement with Polydor Records because he wanted to put out songs from the Mirror and they wanted an album of original material. And he didn't feel he was ready for that.
No.
So I read in the notes in the remaster that 2 weeks after Songs from the Mirror came out, Polydor informed him that they weren't taking up the option to keep him on the label. So he knew fairly early on that wasn't really going to work out. He had got some demos that he was working on in summer of 92. And he was actually on the Toile tour playing a couple of tracks live as well, wasn't he, Craig?
Yeah, the first one, and it's annoying because I saw him for the first time at the Andy Field gig, and then just soon after that he played Newcastle, and I think Newcastle was the last date where he didn't actually play any of the new material. So what happened is we had pretty much the same set list as what the Andy Field gig was, and the rest of the tour, which was the end of like Internal Exile stuff there, before the Toile tour, even though it was classed as part of it. And I think what was the first one that they did? Was it Pipeline or was it Out of My Life?
Pipeline and Out of My Life.
Yeah, they were the first two, but we didn't actually get them in Newcastle. And I think it was the date afterwards up in I'm trying to think where it was that they actually got them. So I was a bit miffed. So I missed seeing it. Yeah, but would it be nice? Would it be nice to see?
How was Pipeline received at the time as a new song?
I don't know. I missed it. They said
I think it was really good. As part of the sort of homework for this, I dug out Toiling in the Reaper Barn, which was one of the Battleside 2 CDs that we'll talk about shortly because it's all part of this story. It's a fairly true to the album version, I have to say. And it seems to go down well on this gig. You know, it's this is from Hamburg on the 23rd of June 92. I think we were all just chuffed to hear some new music, really, because he'd been playing the covers set list for quite a while at that point. In fact, I absolutely led you astray there. This has got raw meat on it as well. So I think as the tour went on, he was introducing more tracks.
Yeah, so just saying, the gig in Newcastle was on the 26th of April.
Yeah.
And then his next gig after that was the 30th of April at King Tut's in Glasgow. And that's when he first played Pipeline.
Did he play raw meat or not?
Let's have a look. No, it's just Pipeline.
Yeah, okay.
And it did add songs after that as well.
Yeah. So because he was without a record label, he was at that point. It was being managed by Brian Lane, who's was his manager.
Wasn't for long though, was it?
Wasn't for long, but in the liner notes for the remaster, Brian Lane wanted him to form a supergroup with Rick Wakeman, Chris Squire, Stephen Adler, and a famous guitarist who he doesn't name. Things could have been very different if that had happened, wouldn't it?
Very different.
I wonder who the famous guitarist is.
Is that Stephen Adler from Guns N' Roses?
It is the very same, yeah.
He's sort of the odd one out in that link, isn't he?
He is a bit, isn't he? Yeah. But I presume Brian Lane must have had some sort of interest in looking after Guns N' Roses or part of them. But obviously that didn't happen. Fish didn't think that was the way to go. It was a critical point in his solo career, wasn't it? So he formed... Well, initially he formed Fishy Records, but he didn't think the name was... He thought it was a bit of a comedy name. So after doing a bit of research, he renamed the label Dick Brothers Records after his grandfather's garage. Is that right?
Yep, and he asked his dad's permission whether he could resurrect the name. And the family were over the moon that he was going to do that.
Yeah, because... he also tells a story in the notes about his dad's garage used to sell 8-track cartridges. So there was a link in selling music as well, you know. For those of you, I mean, most of our listenership is of a certain age and know what an 8-track cartridge is. But if you don't know what an 8-track cartridge is, it's a massive cassette, probably the size of a video cassette, which again I've lost people with.
That's why most of our listeners know what 78s are as well. So really wouldn't
wax cylinders.
But was that popular in the UK, 8-track? Because in Holland it never took off.
No,
did it not?
Really.
I would say probably mid-70s. It's I had a friend whose dad had an 8-track cartridge player, and the tapes were on little spools inside the cassette, and the tape would change heads. The heads moved across the tape. So, but it would change in the middle of a song. It wasn't designed for prog at all. It was designed for 3-minute pop songs, really. But it was great for the car. People used to have them in their cars. So it predates compact cassettes. But yeah. So Fish was trying to launch Fishy Records and Dick Brother Records, and he did so with a compilation album called Outpatients 93. Which has got some other acts on. So there are 3 Fish tracks on here. There's Time and a Word with Steve Howe from Yes, which wasn't on Songs from Mirror at that point.
Because it was recorded afterwards, wasn't it?
Was, yeah. There's a version of The Seeker by The Who. And there's also the debut of Out of My Life, which is one of the tracks from the Suits sessions. But there's also 2 tracks by Dream Disciples, who supported Fish. Joyriders have got 2 tracks, Avalon, and there's 1 track called Swing Your Bag by Guaranteed Pure. And do you know who they are, Craig?
Ray Wilson.
Yes, Ray Wilson was the singer with Guaranteed Pure. Obviously went on to...
Kill Genesis.
Wow.
Oh, people don't like calling all stations, bless them.
Nothing wrong with calling all stations.
It's
Nothing
all right.
wrong. I went to see the tour as well. There you go.
Now, how was Outpatients distributed in the UK? Was that through normal channels?
It did go out to distributors. The when it was reissued on Dick Brothers, he did limited editions through the company fan clubs. The Scottish one was 1,000 limited. The Dutch one, I think, was 500 limited, and German one 500 limited. They're basically the same CD, but they've got a different cover, and they're signed by Fish. And he toured off the back of Outpatients, didn't he?
Was that the acoustic?
No, that was the
tour?
Outpatients tour
Was that Outpatients tour?
in 1993.
Don't think I got to see that.
Did you not?
No, because I had a bit of a gap from 92 was 2 gigs. It was London and Newcastle. 93, all I saw was the Songs from the Mirror tour, and then into May 94 was Newcastle Riverside, just before the convention.
I saw him in Sheffield on the Outpatients tour, 5th of October 1993. So a lot of the Suits songs were starting to come through by that point. He played Mr. 1470, Sunday Special, Jumpsuit City, Empress Song, Lady Let It Lie. They were the first 5 tracks of the gig. So it was all new stuff there. Then he went on to State of Mind, Out of My Life, Tongues, Fortunes of War, Incommunicado, Punch and Judy, Vigil, and he encored with Hold Your Head Up and Lucky and Market Square Heroes. So pretty good set list. But there were quite a few dates in 1993. He played Hastings, Wolverhampton, Norwich, Barnsley, Lincoln, Ipswich, Halifax, the Borderline, the Beer Keller in Bristol, Tivoli, Utrecht in November, Amsterdam in November, Rotterdam, Tilburg, Bremen. So there's quite a few dates on that tour. Just to get a bit of extra cash while he was launching Dick Brothers Records, Fish licensed 5 bootleg titles to a Dutch bootlegger. He sold them to a Dutch bootlegger. And then a month later, he released them himself.
Was it Battlesides?
It was all the Battleside ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was... I can't decide whether that's a really shrewd move or really underhand, but, he was a bootlegger, so what do you do?
Well, to be fair, financially, he needed it. He needed it at the time, and the fan base were clamoring for official live CDs of the Vigil tour and Internal Exile tour, and that. I grabbed all 5 of them straight away.
Yeah, they're good. They're good.
Apart from the sound quality on Toiling and the Vipa Barn's awful.
It's not that bad. I played a little bit tonight. It's okay. It's not as good as the other ones, but it's okay. But yeah, he's made up. He's made up for the lack of live albums since, hasn't he?
Yeah.
When I asked Fish about a year later how Suits had done, he said it sold about 85,000 copies. And I was amazed to find out that he told me that it made more money than Misplaced Childhood did for him with 1.5 million copies.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easy.
Wow.
Because the thing is, when you're part of a 5-piece and you're on, what was it? And Pete was saying on one of the podcasts, was it the guitar one with Antshot the other week, saying that they were on something like 7%. So when you're on such a low margin, and the difference is with Fish when he was, independent and manufacturing the CDs and then getting a distributor to it, he's making a lot more per CD. So this is it. You don't necessarily have to sell millions.
Yeah, but then again, he went from say 500,000 with Virgil to 85,000 with the Suits. So it's
a big
must have been a bit of a disappointment going
sure,
solo and going independent.
Well, he had that realization, didn't he, on the Vigil tour, that he'd basically booked the tour like he was a big act still, and lost a lot of money on it. So I think internal was he tried to sort of step down, but then there was all the hassle with the promoter going bust and everything. So yeah, it must have been pretty demoralizing for him to come right down to the level he was at. But the shows were really good, really enjoyable, I have to say.
It was a big come down from like 2,000-seater theatres to say 500 maximum like club size venues in the space of like 2 years. And it's and the the realization of how the music industry was changing in the early 90s as well.
Yeah, he got a cracking band at that point, hadn't he?
Oh yeah.
So
Was that the same band that recorded the album?
Yes. So you've got Kevin Wilkinson on drums, David Payton on bass, Foss Patterson on keyboards, and Robin Bolt and Frank Usher on guitars. I mean, he's had some good lineups across the years, but I think that might be the strongest one. The rhythm section of Kevin and David is just amazing.
Yeah, I think David Payton is one of the stars on this album.
Yeah,
listen to all these songs and how important he was for most of the songs. I think David did a great job.
Yeah, it's a shame that they kind of fell out, didn't they, when he left? But
I never found out what it was all about. They even ended up fighting in court, if I'm not mistaken.
Two words, Elton John. There you go.
Oh, okay.
He played on some good Elton John albums as well, but I'm sure I'm on my own there, and nobody else is going to agree with me about that on this podcast.
Nothing wrong with Elton John.
No, I mean, even his 80s stuff that David Payton plays on. But so the lead up to the album was the first single, "Lady Let It Lie," on the 5th of April 1994,
which was a very, very commercial. I think he was hoping it was going to be his Kaylee Part 2, really.
Yeah, they would say that it was the least offensive track of the album.
Well, he really tried in the UK. He did a 14-day tour of HMV record shops to promote it, playing in the shop with the band and signing copies. I have to say, I've got 2 signatures and neither of them say Fish, but
When he came to play the Newcastle HMV, he was driving down from Edinburgh and there'd been a crash on the A1, which had blocked the A1. So I think he got about halfway down, then had to drive all the way back up to go across to actually come down the A68 and come back through because he couldn't get it. So it was about an hour and a half late or something, wasn't he?
He'll have been in a great mood, won't he?
Yeah, Craig, they kept announcing it in the HMV store, saying Fisher's at this moment, at this point, and it updated us every kind of half hour, remember?
Yeah, it's like, he's just passing Hexham, hold on. But,
just looking at a typical set list from so he played, if I pick Bristol HMV, for example, he played 7 songs. He played Lady Let It Lie, Out of My Life, Somebody Special, Lucky, Sugar Mice, Internal Exile, and The Company. So, it was a good 30, 40 minutes of stuff.
Yeah, he did. I think he did ask if anybody wanted any requests. And if I remember right, some wag when he was doing acoustic did say Incommunicado. But, cheeky Geordies.
I still remember the video of Lady Let It Lie, which featured Tamara pretty prominently.
Yes, yeah. Not that high a budget, was it? But it looked good. But he was really trying to sort of get himself out there and get himself in the charts, really, wasn't he? With all that promo, a 2 CD single with a picture disc and a cassette
as well, yeah.
Yeah. Was there a black vinyls as well or not?
I don't think so.
No, there isn't.
And how did it do in the charts?
Oh, it didn't. It didn't hit the top 40. Was it something? This was 46. Thing is that at the time the music industry in the UK, what the charts, it wasn't very rock orientated or anything at the time, was it? It was very heavy into the pop side of stuff. I
remember when, jumping ahead a little bit to the Haddington Convention, he did a Q&A in the afternoon. So he was we were all sat cross-legged on the floor. And this was around the time that Blur had Girls and Boys, the song Girls and Boys, out with the sort of girls who like boys. And then obviously you've got Lady Let It Lie with
all the boys want to be
motif in the chorus, sorry. And one of the guys at the Q&A asked Fish if he was concerned about that. He said, well, they're just completely different songs, but it's unfortunate the timing of it.
And nobody was buying singles anyway at the time anymore.
Not really. I mean,
Marillion's singles that year pretty much tanked as well. The Hollow Man and Lap of Luxury. I mean, one skirted the top 30, and then Lap of Luxury only ended in the 50s, didn't it? So there was, but I think it was also around about the time where they changed the chart rules as well, that you could only have a certain amount of formats out. So you're not flooded with like 15 different vinyls and picture discs and things. It was like limited to the 4.
There was a good spread of tracks though. You've got on the first CD single, you've got the single edit of Lady Let It Lie. You've got Out of My Life from the 94 Suits sessions, Black Canal, which at that point was a non-album track, and then Lady Let It Lie recorded live in Rheinberg in October 93. And the second CD single's got the album version of Lady Let It Lie, Emperor's Song live in Rheinberg, Just Good Friends live in Utrecht, and Out of My Life live in Rheinberg. So there's a good spread of unreleased tracks on there,
which we will delve into further in charting the single.
We're not allowed to talk about them on the albums now, Craig. We have to talk about them on charting the single, but there we go.
Did he do any TV at the time? Say Top of the Pops or other programs?
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
There was, even around at the time, there wasn't the chat shows and things like there used to be, where we used to have things like Wogan, and there was some things like the Kenny Everett show where Marillion were on back in the Misplaced time and Clutching at Straws time. TV had changed in the UK a lot, so there wasn't as much out there for, and you also had to be on a major record label and a pop artist to get what the few slots that actually were there left.
And of course, he had to do all the marketing himself.
I mean, I think that's the thing. When it was on that album where that he had the picture of himself as the one-man band, didn't he? With the
yeah,
and that was very symbolic.
Yeah, it is on the Acoustic Sessions CD.
Yeah, that's the one.
There was, so off the back of the HMV shows, he announced an Acoustic Suits tour. Did you see any of those, Craig?
Nope. Like I say, there was nothing round our way.
Had you fallen out with him at that point?
Far from it. Far from it.
We weren't travellers then, were we, Craig?
Not so much. And with work at the time, we didn't get that much time off. So what we did, we got to.
I was probably skint as well, I think.
Oh, dear. Hang on, where's my little violin? I must have seen him quite a lot, because I saw him at the Irish Centre in Leeds on the acoustic tour. It was brilliant. It was packed out, absolutely rammed, which was great. It seemed a bit of a strange choice. I suppose it was a cost issue, because he'd done a few electric gigs. The Haddington Convention, just before the album came out, was electric.
Yeah, because we saw. Was it the week of the release of the album?
It was, yeah. So
that the convention was.
Well, I'm just struggling to remember whether we had a copy of the album or not. We must have, did we?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think the
album 28th of May was Haddington,
and that's when the album came out that week, though, hadn't it? I remember. Yeah, the 16th. Yeah, the album came out the 16th of May.
Right.
So it'd been out for nearly 2 weeks.
Okay.
But the Newcastle gig was the same week as the Haddington Convention. I think it was
it was, yeah.
Because I think, if I remember right, we'd been to Flamingo Land, the theme park, and I think I don't know whether it was the same day as the Fish gig, and was there the same day or the day before?
I'll have to ask, what's Flamingo Land?
It's a theme park. It's a bit like was it your Wallaby kind of.
You see flamingos, right?
Yeah, there's animals and stuff there, but like roller coasters and other attractions.
Edwin, have you seen the pictures of Pripyat? Is it the picture of Pripyat Fun Fair? It's like that.
It's not that bad. What we see there, Gary?
Craig, it's a tenuous link onto my next question, which is apparently on June the 10th, Fish performed at Euro Disney.
He did. I can only see that listed on a list of gigs. There's no information around that.
So was he dressed as Mickey Mouse or not?
Don't know. Just going back. So you're right. The Newcastle gig was on the 25th of May. He then played Middlesbrough Town Hall, and then the company convention was on the 28th of May.
Which is the day that we met.
It was on the train going to the convention. But again, it's a cracking set list, that convention. Mr. 1470, The Voyeur, Emperor's Song, State of Mind, Jumpsuit City, Credo, Waterhole, Lords of the Backstage, Blind Curve, Bittersweet, Heart of Lothian, Fortunes of War, Pipeline, Big Wedge, Lucky, Lady Let It Lie, Incommunicado, and then an encore of The Company and Raw Meat. It's a cracking set list.
I always found the Haddington Corn Exchange a really odd venue because it's just a village hall.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Just,
Did you ever get across to Haddington, Edwin?
Just once to visit fishing when he had the old studio and the house.
Yes.
And I saw him recording Gentlemen's Excuse Me, if I'm not mistaken, one of his ballads for sure.
Wow.
And I just popped over there for, say, half an hour to say hello. He was busy recording, so he hadn't much time anyway. But I was on my way for a vacation in Scotland, and he was okay for me dropping by for a few minutes.
Yeah. So you never saw him at the Corn Exchange there?
No.
No, it is like Craig says, it's kind of a village hall, but I've got very vivid memories of that convention. During the day, he had videos, like live videos playing in the back room of the hall.
Yeah.
And then we were all sort of milling about in the main hall. So it was a really relaxed atmosphere. It was a one-day convention, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just a one-day one, yeah. Before they expanded.
Yeah. So shall we talk through the album track by track?
Yeah.
Okay. Starting with a Dick Patterson Bolt song, Mr. 1470.
It's a great starter to the album. I really like that track.
Yeah, and its origin lies in Kenya, in National Museum, where he saw these skeletons on display and this skull, which was 1.5 or maybe 2 million years old. So that sort of inspired him to write the song, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You know, Edwin, for a long time, I really thought it was something to do with 1470 being a time in history in Scotland. I hadn't realised what it was. And then my friend Craig Cooper-Smith, who's the medical professional, he had explained exactly what Edwin says about the skeleton that was found in Kenya. And it's specimen number 1470, I believe.
Yep. Are you going to say hello to Craig?
Oh, hello, Craig.
He listens.
Yeah. Hope you're doing well in the US, my friend. See you soon.
I think he's in Japan at the minute.
Oh, well.
It's a great opener to the album, isn't it? It's very up tempo. And again, live comes across really well.
It's a genius.
I like his I like his aggressive way of singing on that track as well. Even though it's a very accessible album, like I just said, he takes some really aggressive approach in singing on most of the songs.
Yeah.
And, that's maybe why it works so well live.
Some of Foss's keyboard sounds a little bit 80s sounding, I think, on that track, particularly on the We Are the Sons of 1470 towards the end. But it's not too detrimental, I don't think. But a great start. Second track was the first single then, Lady Let It Lie, Dick Peyton Cassidy.
It's a nice song, but I think it tries too hard to be commercial. I don't know. It was all. It almost feels like it was written with an agenda to be desperate to be a hit single. I mean, I like the song. Don't get me wrong. I've liked it from the beginning, but it's almost is it trying too hard? A bit like No One Can.
It's a bit too soft and sophisticated for my taste.
Does it fall into the same category as No One Can, Edwin? Because we know you're not a fan of that.
Close.
Gary?
No, I mean, as we all had a taster of it anyway, being the lead single. it's one of those things. Whatever album you get, if you know a track, it's already in your consciousness compared to hearing the brand new material, isn't it? But I do like it, and it is on the popular end of his spectrum. But I've always enjoyed the song.
It's not been something that's been played for a long time either. It was only really played back in the day. And I can't remember the last time I actually saw him play it.
It's not a particular track I would dig out, but I don't skip it either.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It's nice enough. On to a live favourite next then, Emperor's Song. Dick Cassidy Bull.
It's energetic, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, again, this is one of the ones that he tried out live for me. It's,
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I've always preferred the version on the Lady Let It Lie single for some reason, because it's got a bit more of a tack to it.
Well, Emperor's Song's one of the ones on the demos disc that you can kind of see some of the transformation, I think. Is it not? Am I talking rubbish there? Yeah. Track 13 it's really like a different arrangement on the demos disc. Probably not got as much attack about it on the demo.
And that it has that signature keyboard sound.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that always reminded me of Rupert Hines' solo albums. Are you familiar with that?
I know Rupert. I don't know his much of his stuff.
Yeah, and he made some brilliant solo albums, and he had that same sort of keyboard sound as a trademark of his. So that's why I was reminded to his work. But I can really recommend, if you like stuff like The Fix and Howard Jones and music like that, I can really recommend to look into his albums as well.
Did Rupert Hine have any hits then?
No, but he did produce bands like Rush and Tina Turner and lots of big names.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, it's Gary. You got any views on Emperor's Song?
That element, Edwin's talking about that intro keyboard. I do find that quite 80s sound, but it doesn't matter. It's just one of them things that I've always thought of. If it was to date it, it's that,
Yeah.
But it's in the album. It's in the right order. It's in the right place. It's the song that you need there. That's got a bit more upbeat, and it's a great live favorite, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. On to the next track, which was the second single, which is Fortunes of War.
It's in my Fish all-time top 10 for sure.
It's a cracking tune, and the lyrics go back to, was it Clutching at Straws time?
Well, it was later on that I found that line,
elements of it,
brilliant line on Beaujolais Day.
Yeah. But it was an interesting choice for a single, because it's actually quite long, and it's one of those ones that was cut down a fair bit in time to get it, because isn't the album version's about 6 or 7 minutes long?
It is, yeah. It is.
Yeah.
One of the songs that David Payton is shining on, and the flute works really well on that song as well.
Yeah, I think the sparse, it's got a more open sound where you can obviously appreciate Payton's playing, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like a fretless bass, but sometimes he played a fretted bass, but it kind of has that flow to it where you think it's fretless, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's fretless on there, but it just gives it a different sound. And like you're saying, because it's sparse,
it doesn't really overstay its welcome, though.
Yeah,
7 minutes, does it?
Yeah.
You don't think, well, it's dragged on. The 7 minutes is probably about the right length.
And it was also used in the film that he was in at the time, Chasing the Deer.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, not remember that when with Brian Blessed and
you remember it? Yeah, I don't remember that being in it, but yeah.
Yeah, it was the closing music for the film, which was
wasn't John Wetton also involved in that one?
I think so. So. Yeah, because there was various artists who produced like songs for the soundtrack. Yeah, but I think John Wetton was one of them. But it was just a low budget affair, and I think it's actually isn't it up on YouTube now for anybody to watch? So yeah, made for a budget of £3.50.
Hey guys, another thing with the song, is when the song starts and it's about the kids playing and pretending to be soldiers and stuff, and then after the guitar solo in the last chorus when it talks about it being adult, and sometimes the hanky can't stop the bleeding, and he turns it round into the real world situation. I get a lump in my throat. Absolutely beautiful.
Strong lyric in it, yeah. Absolutely.
He knew how to write them.
What do you mean new?
But he's not writing anymore, is he?
You don't know that. You don't know that. Okay, next track on the album is Somebody Special.
It is a really good song live, and the way that it improved over the demo versions, because the original demo version from '92 on it is a lot slower paced with different lyrics, and it sped it up and really sharpened it. But it was always a good one live.
Yeah, it's the one song I hope he will play on his farewell tour from this album.
All right, okay.
But I'm with Edwin there.
I hope he plays more different songs, but there's nothing wrong with this. They did remix. Oh, sorry, they re-recorded this for Yin and Yang, and it was more based on the Yin and Yang version is more based on the acoustic tour, so it's much more acoustic driven compared to the album version.
Is it on Yin? Or is it on Yang?
I can't remember. I was just looking actually while I was trying to look, but I don't know.
I really like what he's doing with his vocal melody line on this song. I was listening to it today again, and sometimes it even sounds like he's losing it, but it's really tongue-in-cheek the way he's singing.
Yeah, what losing it in there is.
Yeah, like he's singing like he's losing his mind, like he's singing like a sort of madman, and then he's getting back to the choruses and stuff. And there's a lot of variation on his vocal melody line.
Yeah.
But you can hear that it's all tongue in cheek, and you can hear that there's a layer underneath it. So I think that's one of the more clever songs on the album, vocally wise.
It's another one like the next track, and well, it's two more coming up actually, but they've just got this incredible groove again with David Payton's playing, just funky almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would probably rather talk about this one and then talk about the next one separately, as we'll come to in a minute. But the Somebody Special re-record is on Yang, Craig. I've just had a look.
All right, okay, yeah.
But yeah, I think Somebody Special's one of the strong tracks on the album.
Yeah, but it's got a nice lyrical callback to Clutching at Straws as well, hasn't it?
She's got a wedding ring that's Cartier, as far as you can tell.
Yeah.
She lost it, threw it. I lost it in the local wishing well, right?
Yeah.
I always think of that time of the night when I hear it. Yeah. Lovely.
Nice callback.
Okay, next up, No Dummy. That's
it's
all
not
you
my
need
least
to do,
favorite
isn't it?
track. It's not my least favorite on here, mate.
Is it not?
No. I realise I quite like this.
Oh, just the sounds of it. I mean, lyrically, fair enough. You know, it's an interesting lyric, but musically, it's like just what I don't know. It's just not right.
It's definitely a diversion, isn't it?
They tried to do something different.
Yeah, but
to
be fair, if you're trying to make a song, not like it's not a rap song. If you're trying to make something a bit hip hop and all the rest of it, at least have a little bit of credibility in it and get somebody involved who can actually make it sound right rather than making it sound like it sounded. It just sounds awful.
Do you think it's like hip hop? I thought it was much more like Steely Dan kind of jazz vibe in it.
Yeah, but I think it's jazz trying to do hip hop.
Have you listened to the saxophone in the song, which is a really great asset?
I think musically, if you just re-looked at it, it could be a good tune in there somewhere.
I was just going to say that's when he plays it on this forthcoming tour. This is when you'll be going to the bathroom then.
When he plays it on the forthcoming tour, there'll be a massive queue at the bar, the toilet, or the merch.
Yeah, and I'll be dancing, grooving with the bass man, Yeah.
But hats off to him trying to do something different. Fair play.
I like it because it's different.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry I'm laughing. I'm sorry. It's just... I think if he'd... With different lyrics, it probably is a good song. I think the backing track is great. But what he's doing over the top it just doesn't work for me.
When he tried something not exactly similar on Sunsets, it worked much better.
Is it also the way he's singing with the you know what I mean? Yeah, or is it just? No?
I don't know. I can't decide if I quite like the ducking and diving, thieving and lying, but I quite like that. It's just, I don't know. It's like, it's not rapping. It's a million miles from rapping, but it's like cod white man rapping, if you know what I mean.
It's twee rapping.
Yeah.
But see, when you did like rapping and things and stuff like that on Sunset, it had an edge and it had a bite to it, and musically it was much better. So it could be done.
It's a real shame because right up to this point, it's a 5-star album for me until we get to there. But you know, horses for courses. Edwin likes it. That's good. That's good. Next up, then, Pipeline.
I like this, John. I was going to say the intro. I didn't realize it was guitar instantly because it sounds a bit like "Won't Get Fooled Again" or Barbara O'Reilly, where it's like a sequence type of keyboard. So I wasn't quite sure, but I do obviously really like the song. It's really powerful.
I find the chorus a bit Pink Floydian, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it's probably the track, because it's one of the first ones that was worked up. It's probably the track that gave the album its direction. You know, the others, nothing is too far away from this, I don't think, on this album. Again, David Payton's all over this as well. He wrote the song, Joint wrote the song. It's another good live song, it really is.
And lyrically, it's just how, you know, I think with Pipeline and jumping ahead a bit with Raw Meat, it's how he felt his career was at the time. That the two autobiographical songs in where his headspace is at the time. You know, he was coming out with this new album. He had control of everything, and he just felt like he was just waiting to be released.
Yeah. With Pipeline, you have to read between the lines a bit more than with Raw Meat. Raw Meat is more obvious. Yeah.
I can't remember, again, last time I saw him play it live, but it used to always go down well.
I don't know when he last played it, but he did play it quite a lot for a while, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Jumpsuit City
is very much a song of its time. Lyrically as well, it's very 90s, the fall of the Berlin Wall and the emerging sex trade of people from Eastern Europe and the way everything was going. And, you know, it's something that he saw a lot on tour, and it was his experiences of going around like Europe and Eastern Europe and saw what was happening, and not necessarily a comfortable lyric, but very topical at the time. That was almost serious there, wasn't it?
That was good, wasn't it? Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. I like this. I think it's kind of, again, it's acoustically driven, isn't it? The sort of the rhythm of the song.
It's got the paint and groove again.
Yeah.
What were you going to say there?
Although he didn't write this one.
No.
I was going to say that it's not one of my favorites, but it also has to do that on the original album, it came right after Pipeline. And it also has something to do with the order of the songs. And it doesn't seem somehow the right song to come after Pipeline. And on the remasters, it's after Out of My Life, if I'm not mistaken. And then it feels much more different. So the order of the songs can influence how you conceive the songs as well.
Yeah, I think with talking of the order of the songs of this album, what I think you find with the first, say, 4 tracks, they're a lot more commercial and a lot more more driven. The back end of the album is a bit heavier, and it's not as say musically light. It's a bit heavier and in the thematically and everything as well. It's almost like it progresses that way. So maybe there could have been a bit more light and shade in the way that the album was actually like put together. But,
I think the track list is the same, Edwin. It's the same order, or even on the remaster. So
because in the remasters you've got a Black Canal and Out of My Life.
They're on the end.
Between.
They're on the end.
Oh, Not on Spotify.
Right.
Spotify is...
No, on the
it's on
CD,
Spotify.
the CD is the same as the
Okay.
original album. But
I listened to the remasters on Spotify today, so that's my fault. Sorry about that.
No,
no.
that's
I mean,
weird.
if it helps, that's cool. That's cool. A lot of people, there's a lot of negativity for Jumpsuit City online that I've read over the years. I don't find it that bad. I think it's not as low as No Dummy for me.
So John, is a lot of that comments aimed at the subject matter or just the overall the song, the music?
I think it's the song. It's not really about the lyric, because the lyric's quite one of Fish's stronger lyrics. I think it's more the song. I mean, I think Suits divide. We'll talk about it at the end, but I think Suits divides the fan base. I don't think it's held in high regard by a fair chunk of Fish fans. I know I'll give him a name check, but I know Andy Bliss put in the comments when we were talking about reviewing this. This was the last Fish album he bought for a good few years because it kind of put him off. But I feel the opposite way about that.
I'm with you, John. I'm the same.
Let's pick it up again then. Bandwagon.
It's another autobiographical, isn't it? Really, like about touring and I'm coming round to tour. Come and see us.
I never realised that this track was written by all six of them: Dick, Payton, Bolt, Usher, Patterson, Wilkinson. So it's something they worked out, obviously, in the rehearsal room. But again, another good track, I would say.
I don't think it was actually being played a lot live.
No, that's my least favorite. I like what he's doing with the flute, but it's the song that doesn't really do it for me.
You see, I would be happy if he played this on the farewell tour. Not because it would make you unhappy, but I like it. Yeah. And I don't think he's played it much.
If I could play devil's advocate, I would put Out of My Life in place of this on the record. But we all like different stuff. I love No Dummy,
Well, that's the point, isn't it? We've all got different views.
Exactly, yeah.
So the last track on the original album then is Raw Meat.
It's a Fish classic. It's very heartfelt. It's where he was at the time, how he was feeling at the time about his career in the industry and everything like that. And fair play to him. It's a good tune.
Yeah, he was, I'm quoting, saying, "We were driven by a dream that's broken down." And that's really heavy. But when you look at the song in general, it's a song about hope as well.
Yeah.
I sort of consider this Fish's "I Did It My Way."
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Do you think this is a contender for the farewell tour?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please. Got to be.
Yeah. Towards the end of the set, I think.
Not a dry eye in the house.
Really strong song. And there's an absolutely cracking version on the live disc of the remaster. The very last song on the live disc. It's recorded at the Blue Note in Poznan. It's got a really long intro where Fish is explaining about what raw meat, where the term raw meat comes from, about the music hall days where the music halls would start at, say, 2 p.m, and the people who were sat in the music halls at 2 p.m. were the people who didn't have a job, so they were sort of in the cheap seats, and all the acts that were in the first section of the show were called raw meat because they were there to be heckled and shouted at. But it's a really, really fantastic live version on the end of the remasters. If you haven't got it, I highly recommend having a listen on streaming sites. It's the very last track of the 3-disc set, but it's a fantastic song anyway, and this is a superb version.
I just wondered, just getting off topic here, we're talking about his farewell tour. Farewell tour, last show, last song.
Company.
The company has to be company, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think he'll do Market Square Heroes and the company.
I was thinking about the line, "When I need reassurance, I listen to the crowds."
Yeah, could do, yeah.
How that would end his active career playing live. That would be a touching moment as well.
It would.
If I was to put money on it, it'd be Market Square Heroes and the company together.
Yeah.
As the last two songs.
And on a high note, right?
And then they could fall over.
You do know, Craig. Not that he does listen to this, but if he heard what you've just said, he'd play something else out of badness. So.
No dummy.
Yes.
Yeah.
No dummy. Yes. And mic drop at the end. So the bonus tracks on the album, Black Canal.
I've
My
loved Black
favorite.
Canal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cracking tune. It's been one of my favorites from the album, from the B-side, like since it came out. It for me it's up there with like his other B-sides like Carnival Man, from Internal Exile and that. You know, I think it should have been on the album, but I
Quite
don't
long.
think it
It's
would.
about 8 minutes.
And I think that's why it wasn't put on. I think it was more. It's more atmospheric and
It's very atmospheric. It's good.
but it's definitely one of my favorite tunes on the album. I said that he played it live, didn't he,
Yeah.
back in the day, but only on the round about the Suits period of time. Sorry,
This
Edwin?
is a storytelling at its best.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of, it's almost a spoken lyric at times, isn't it?
It reminds me a bit of the same gloomy atmosphere as Dire Straits' Private Investigations.
Yeah.
Remember
I
that
can
one?
see where you're coming from. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say you cannot beat a bit of Fish spoken word.
Well, there you go. And
Did you hear
the
that?
big bit of
Sorry,
fish spoke word, yeah.
Yeah. The first time I heard Blind Curve at my friend's house when I was about 13, not being a Marillion fan at the time, I was laughing at the fact there was poetry on a record. That's how naive and stupid I was then, right?
And the disc ends with Out of My Life, which was the first thing we heard officially recorded for this album. Quite a folky song, isn't it?
it's a very folky song. They say that was is the version on Outpatients different to the version that was on Suits?
I think it is.
I think it is slightly different.
I think it is slightly different, yeah.
The 92 demo is quite different. And I like the opening approach with the guitar better than on the final, on the original song.
Yeah.
But I like you call it folky. Can I call it Celtic as well?
Yeah,
The Celtic,
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That works, absolutely. Oh, yeah, it's great. It's great. I keep saying how much I like the album. I think if the only problem I've got with it is no dummy, out of 10 tracks, that's brilliant. 11 tracks, whatever it is.
It's good going. And the remaster, let's say you can't buy anymore, but let's say all the tracks are up on streaming, and it's very, very interesting to see how different some of the original demos are compared to how the album versions ended up being. There's some radical differences, especially things like Mr. 1470 is almost a completely different song.
Yeah.
And lyrically, Somebody Special, the original version of that, is a lot of different lyrics, and it's a lot slower. Pipeline's got a very almost like foggy middle section to it in the original demo version. Is there like three different versions, or two or three different versions of Pipeline on there? But
two pipelines.
But as you get through them, because there's quite a few different demo versions, you can see
three Somebody Specials.
Yeah, but you can see how they go from the initial version and get closer and closer to what the album version became.
But they're really well recorded demos as well.
Oh yeah, they are.
There's a lot of work gone into them.
Yeah,
It's a bit like obviously a lot of the Marillion special editions and making ofs. You know, where you've got the work in progress, but then they've did the final demo before the one that we get, you know?
Yeah.
And you see the evolution the same way, even though they're more complete songs, it's not little bits.
Yeah.
There's definitely, certainly with Somebody Special having 3 versions, you know, you get the evolution of it. It's good.
Yeah. What do you think of the art of Mark Wilkinson's artwork?
I'm good with the front cover, but I hate the buttons on the original, on that version, yeah.
I don't think it's one of Mark Wilkinson's best ones. And I think it was very, very difficult to try and get the theme of exactly what Fish wanted for it.
I think the first reissue is a stronger sleeve.
Yeah.
Because the image is blown up to almost be the full sleeve.
Yeah, but I agree. What sort of message is it trying to bring across? Not really clear.
Because the suit was made as like it's a patchwork of skin, isn't it?
Yeah, the idea is that they're tattoos on
Tattoos.
Yeah, difficult to capture, I think.
Yeah, but it's not one of the strongest covers. But I don't think that's Mark Wilkinson's fault in the slightest. I think it was just a very, very difficult concept to realize.
Yeah,
And I was just wondering that I wonder how many people who gave it originally say 2 stars out of 5. I think most people will have changed their minds by now. That this album, looking and listening to it now, has a different, how do you say? Well, it has grown to a lot of people. It certainly has grown with me, and I was a bit skeptical at first, but I really learned how to love this album, and I would easily give it a 4 out of 5 stars now.
So it falls under in the genius of Bollock stakes. It's genius.
We've had
how many stars would you give it now, Gary?
I would give it 4. I would give it 4.5 out of 5. I really like this record. I really do.
I'd go for 4 for doing numbers, but genius.
I'll be honest. Yeah, I'll be honest that over the years after this, my sort of interest in Fish waned a little, and I don't know if it was just I didn't go to any of his shows for a bit, and being pretentious, I started to listen to Radiohead and other bands instead. I don't know, I was following a different scene for a little while, and then came back to the light, and I definitely, I've got fond memories of this album, and the gigs around this time were absolutely sensational.
They were quite hot and sweaty club gigs, weren't they?
It's a 5-star Fish record for me. It's up there with Vigil. Despite what I've said about No Dummy, the rest of it is just fantastic. I love it.
The next one was Sunsets on Empire, right? It was a completely different approach.
Yeah, which we will talk about, but Craig's a bigger fan of that than I am.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Stephen Wilson's got a lot to answer for in my book. Well, there you go. We did post on Facebook that we were going to be reviewing Suits. There's quite a few comments coming over the weekend, which I'd just like to sort of read a few out. But they do echo what Edwin's just said, to be fair. Fred Holmes put that I like it a lot more than when I first bought it. It's now one of my favourites of his, a deep album that improves with age. The opposite opinion, Martin Holroyd, probably my least favourite. I like the first 4 songs, and then the rest of it is totally unmemorable.
It's harsh.
It is a bit harsh, but everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's invalid. Stephen Dempster. In the main, I love it. A couple of filler songs on there, but a couple of crackers. Love Mr. 1470 and Raw Meat in particular. As I mentioned before, Andy Bliss. Haven't played it for ages. It was the last Fish album I bought on release until 13th star. Martin Jakubski, friend of the pod. I was really looking forward to this album after hearing some of the tracks being premiered live in the run-up to recording and release. When it came out, I was a little disappointed in the production, as I felt the power and intensity had been lost. However, I still really like the majority of the songs, with the notable exceptions of Jumpsuit City and No Dummy.
Wow.
The latter of which is, in my opinion, one of the worst songs he's ever recorded. It's terrible. Don't tell us what really think, Martin. Yeah. Wish Black Canal and Especially Out of My Life had been on the album instead, the latter having featured heavily in live sets. Standout tracks are Mr. 1470, Lady Let It Lie, Emperor's Song and Raw Meat, which I still think is one of the best things he's ever done. And David Wright says the guitar solo on Lady Let It Lie is an absolute blinder. And I'm going to finish with Andy King's comment. I was disappointed when it came out. Your enthusiasm may make me revisit it. Controversially, Internal Exile was my favourite when it came out. Well, I hope you've heard enough on here, Andy, to make you revisit it, because there's a lot of love for it on the podcast.
Yeah. I was rereading, so I'm almost addicted to your book, Edwin. The amount of times I've been rereading sections is just crazy. But the interview that you did with Fish for Suits had some interesting nuggets in it, because I think he was saying that to make a decent profit in Europe, he was aiming to try and sell about 250,000 copies, which was nothing like shooting for the moon, is there?
You need ambition.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, and that's always been his struggle.
But yeah, I know he was planning on doing in the start of 94 that he was actually planning on doing Outpatients 2, which never turned up.
What more bands that he'd had in the studio?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But that would have been interesting if he'd continued it as a project going forward. But obviously, there mustn't have been enough.
I don't know how many copies he sold of those discs. You would find them kicking about in sale racks quite a lot. Because it's only the front of the sleeve has only got a very small fish sticker on it. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
There's not a great deal to say fish is on it, Fish with Marillions on it, or whatever. So it didn't help it, I don't think. Yes. So we've covered everything except one thing, haven't we?
What we're not covered yet.
What
Could it be your favourite slot by any chance?
I think it's about time. We haven't had my favourite slot for a while, have we? And it's the first album we've reviewed recently that I can do my favourite slot in. So it's time for Just for the Record, folks. Sorry to all you Just for the Record fans out there, both of you. We haven't had one for a while. Suits was issued on double vinyl and on a single picture disc. Now, I've got the single picture disc, but I don't have the double vinyl. It was 45 RPM double vinyl as well. It's one of the things that is on the top of my wants list now. But the picture disc has 8 tracks on it. Mr. 1470, Lady Let It Lie, Emperor's Song, Fortunes of War, and then Somebody Special, No Dummy, Jumpsuit City and Raw Meat, as though Fish was taunting me by putting those 2 on it. But it looks fantastic. It's upside down there, but it's a really nice picture disc in a die-cut sleeve. There were 5,000. I've got number 4,489, which was bought direct from Derek himself.
Did you get it at the time, or did you buy it later on?
No, I bought it at the time from him.
Yeah.
So I would buy the picture discs of everything. I really wish I'd bought the black vinyl. It's expensive and difficult to get hold of now. Going for about £100 at the moment.
Yeah, and the chances of a reissue are fairly
I don't think he'll reissue it. No, it's a real shame. I wish he would. And there's also a picture disc of Lady Let It Lie, which I got from HMV, and HMV were charging $3.99 for 12-inch picture discs in 1994.
Back in the day.
It's signed by the man, but this is obviously from one of the acoustic signing sessions that he did.
I've got it too.
Yeah, it's basically just, you haven't got the album?
I haven't got the album, but I've got the single picture disc.
Right. So it's just a single cover. And then the lyrics are on the back to Lady Let It Lie Out of My Life, which is nice. Not too expensive to buy again. Had a quick look on Discogs.
What's the holy grail for Fish collectors? What's the most sought after album or single or EP?
I don't know what the most would be. I think Internal Exile is pretty rare. Songs from the Mirror is even rarer on vinyl. Suits is certainly up there.
Just don't know whether something like I don't know how rare now things, something like the Company 12-inch or something is.
Yeah.
On vinyl.
And would that be just normal UK prints or Japanese prints or?
Well, the Company was a European-only single, so...
Yeah, it didn't come out in the UK, so anybody in the UK had to import it in.
But, I mean, as I say, Suits double vinyl is at the top of my list. It's actually got all the B-sides on it as well on the double vinyl, even though it played at 45. So it's the full sessions that are on the remaster CD.
That's good, that.
And it does put Black Canal after Pipeline. So side 3 has got Pipeline, Black Canal, and Out of My Life on it. Nice run for you there, Edwin. That.
John, that should be your preferred listening method anyway, because then you can't skip No Dummy, right?
If I could get a copy of it, Gary, it would definitely be my preferred listening. I'm looking for it a lot at the minute. You know, it's nice. It's a nice pressing. It's got a lyric sleeve with it, a lyric sheet with it. Unfortunately, it has got those blooming buttons that you're not a big fan of on the back of it. But yeah, it's high on my wants list, as I'm sure it is other people as well. The most it's sold for on Discogs is £170.88.
Ouch.
And the least is £11.16. I don't know when that was.
Yeah, someone's cursing now.
Yeah.
Let it go for how much?
Sold it for £11.16. So we've talked a lot about Suits. Have we agreed it's a genius album?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, from me.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Suits and this period in Fish's history? We'll start with you, Edwin.
You need to listen to the live versions of these songs as well. That's really a bonus. When you want to get acquainted with the strength of these songs, listen to the live versions as well.
Great advice. Gary?
I think for everyone, this was opening a new chapter in Fish's career because he'd gone from having the labels behind him to all of a sudden being his own cottage industry, which, as Edwin alluded to earlier, he's earning more, but he's also risking more to invest and also to put his time into doing other things that aren't just touring and recording music. He's running a business all of a sudden. And
a studio.
Oh, yes, of course. And I think, that probably takes its toll further down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially financially and the stress levels of it. I mean,
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't the breakout hit that he needed, at least it charted higher than the previous two albums, but it didn't give him the boost that he needed to push his career forward. Hence the year later where we get Yin and Yang, which we'll cover down the line.
Love them.
Oh yeah. And the thing is there's some of the re-recordings turning up on the different remasters as well. And it's just a shame that doesn't want to revisit the Yin and Yang project and re-release it because he said he's got no interest in remastering the re-recorded Marillion songs.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because some of them are really good.
Incubus.
Oh, classic.
Yeah. One final thing, if I can add it, I do prefer when I heard before the album came out, when I heard bootlegs of Raw Meat. Obviously, the final version's a better performance from Fish vocally, but I like it when it was more of a piano ballad without the big end section.
Right. I
don't know if anyone else feels that, maybe some of the listeners, but I don't know. It was a little bit more gentleman's, excuse me, intimate's the word. But I like that.
Please tell us on Facebook if you agree with Gary's views there. Yeah, it certainly. He worked it up for the album, didn't he? So he gave the album a big finish, I think.
Yeah, and definitely as a live thing, I can understand why he wanted it to, take the roof off as the last song of the set, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's just the next album in Fish's story, and as I've already said a number of times, I love this album. It's a 5-star Fish album for me. If you haven't played it recently, if you've never heard it, dig it out on streaming, give it another listen. It's a fantastic record, and I hope he plays 2 or 3 songs from it on the Road to the Isles tour.
We're starting the No Dummy petition now. We want it.
I'll sign it first. Cheers.
Me second.
Well, look, thank you very much, guys. It's been great to chat with you and talk about Fish's music again. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Edwin.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And Gary?
Thanks, guys. Had a nightmare with my broadband connection this evening, but we made it through.
We made it through. Don't we love the tech stuff?
Greg will sort it out in the edit.
He will.
You'll sound like one of those Smash robots by the time he's finished. I've lost Edwin now. He won't know what I'm talking about with that.
And Craig, do you want to recommend viewers visit Flamingo Land? It's good on Tuesdays in June. There is no queues.
That's it.
I'll see you guys in Utrecht.
Absolutely, Edwin.
Gary, are you coming as well?
Not to Utrecht, but I'll hook up with you in Glasgow, my friend, okay?
Okay.
That's definitely a date.
Marvellous.
Good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Take care.
And stay alive. Hey. Thanks for listening to Planet Marzipan Podcast. Please like and subscribe from whichever platform you get your podcasts from. You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com and check out marillion.com, fishmusic.scot or fishmusic.eu for all the good stuff.